Perfect. Cody.
What's going
sir,
on, Manny?
How are you, man? Thank you for
Awesome
doing
this
this.
morning. Thank you.
So,
Thank
dude,
you for
so
having
we
me.
were, I want to jump right in because we were talking about a lot of things, but we were talking about a little bit of the background of the 10 planet system and just kind of what drove Eddie Bravo to start his brand and pursue his vision. A lot of people think that it was just to purposely step away from the gi, but it was mainly because he was coaching MMA. So a lot of the system was based on him trying to develop a guard and an offensive system that would work in MMA. So everything is clinches and using his legs and stuff, So
Yeah, so it was the choice between Eddie is that whenever he first started doing 10th Planet, it was either going to work on a roof or going to, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to fight MMA. I may have to do this someday, So he's like, I need to start training whenever he was at Jean-Jacques to not use the gi because they don't have the kimono in MMA. And that's when he started developing that system of having overhooks, throwing up rubber guard to connect to staying connected, the lockdown with a double underhook, staying connected to your opponent without having to rely on grips and staying clinched and staying safe. So optimally, it was a system that was supposed to be a device for MMA.
wow. But also Jean-Jacques developed that out of necessity, right? Because of his hand.
He only has like 2 fingers.
And but if you watch how because it wasn't something that was primarily used, but if you watch Jean-Jacques during the Abu Dhabi when he was competing, everything was using that that like you said, he only has like 2 fingers, but he developed a whole system that worked for him. Fighting technically one-handed with like half of the other, like pretty much just his palm, but everything was overhooks and underhooks, and he controlled some phenomenal monsters using that system.
Yes, that's where the base of the rubber guard came from.
Right.
With having that left overhook, so Eddie's like, oh, I have enough hip dexterity, I can just connect my hand and play that high guard. That's why we have in 10th Planet, all of our butterfly sweeps start from overhooks. That left overhook from traditional, we call it Jean-Jacques 1, Jean-Jacques 2, Jean-Jacques 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have a whole system based off his butterfly game.
Based on Jean-Jacques. Dude, that is phenomenal. Yeah, I used to, like I said, we used to watch those ADCC. Now, for you young kids that are spoiled now, that you get them, you get them like streamed to your computer and it's in HD and stuff. We used to get, like when I started, I'll give you an example. When I started, like I said, we were talking about the 100-to-1 submissions, and it was a DVD or a VHS. I think it was DVD at the time, finally, but it was just VHS put together by Mark Lehman. And it wasn't really an instruction. It was just he would catch a submission, and then they would edit it to where they would show the same submission in slow speed, and then on to the next technique. So you were learning new submissions or new setups based on this thing. But going back to the ADCC, it's like I was a student of Jean-Jacques, and he was like, by the time I got the tape, being like a white belt, by the time I got the tape, it was green. It was like green and yellow worn out tape, But yeah, his game was phenomenal. He was very smart, and like I said, I think he fought big monsters like Mark Kerr and all those guys, and he was just based on that system, which was very, very smart, man. I loved it. So, but also, so then moving on to the 10 planet system, talking about leg locks, we were talking about how it's important for people to not start doing leg locks right away and develop a discipline to pass guard.
Yeah, I have to be honest, I have an issue with that. Like I was allowed to play leg locks as soon as I started going into the gym. Like I couldn't rip heel hooks or do anything twisting or reaping, but I could do straight ankle locks, and that caused me to have a devastating straight ankle lock. But I'm terrible at passing guard. Like the only way I can do is like stack and pass, or maybe just a simple like knee slice. All the fancy like Hoffa Mendes passing, like passing this way, going under this way, leg dragging this way. I'm not. That's like a whole new thing of jiu-jitsu for me. So it's I find it really important to kind of, I wouldn't say, like not let white belts or just people who are new to jiu-jitsu train leg locks. They get a good fundamentally like passing base.
What's your system? How do you guys, so if you have a brand new white belt with no background, what's your system?
With no background? Our system, we usually have our Mashing the Warm-Ups classes, which is a kind of like intro to 10th Planet. It's an 8-week course that kind of goes over our like katas, our flows into 10th Planet. We don't, especially for the leg locks, we don't, especially if they're brand new, we don't let people leg lock them. They can't leg lock anybody, So we just kind of, we're new to those people, make sure they're introduced to people saying that, hey, this guy's new, just don't be reaping on a heel hook on him,
right?
And potentially hurt him.
Okay. And then how do you, once somebody does that introduction system, how do you start introducing them to leg locks?
We have classes. We'll have leg lock week or leg lock 2 week or month periods wherever we go over the positions of like ashi garami, double outside ashi, saddle, like the honey hole, like all those new positions. We go over that intricately with those guys after that.
Okay. Where does a heel hook fall into that?
Heel hook is the submission. All the positions I spoke about were positions of control. So like ashi garami is like single X.
Right.
That's where you can get a heel hook off of that, or ankle lock.
Right. No, my question was, so you introduce people to all these positions, right?
Yes.
And is the heel hook one of the last submissions that you guys show them just because it's so devastating?
Personally, that I do. If I have a classroom full of higher belts, I'll just drop into it. But if it's somebody that's brand new, I want them to learn the positioning and control first. Right. Like I'll have them try to escape so they can work their no-gi clinches and their leg entanglements more. But I'll just say, you don't even hold on to the heel. I'll just say, cup it with your elbow and then just see how you can roll with it.
The heel hook is such a dangerous position, man. And one of the reasons we were talking about is it's just there's no pain. There's no pain up to the point of injury, because even then, like when you start cranking the heel hook, there's a point of tension when you start cranking the heel hook, and then the leg stops. It just stops moving, and that's a false sense of security for the guy defending, because your knee literally stops. There's no pain, and then you have the guy starting to move and start to fight, and then the crunch. And once you get that, if you don't understand how to move out of that position, you're done. Like you're having a severe knee injury.
Yeah, it's been most likely surgery.
Right. Yeah, that's devastating. But I feel like, and we were talking about how I think it's important for all ages, all backgrounds. You need to understand no-gi. You need to understand leg locks. If not to do them yourself, to understand, to teach. For example, for me, I learned. I'm a student of the game. I'm a student of the leg lock system, the ashigurami, the honey hole, and everything else. Not because it's going to be primarily my game, but because I feel that it might speak to one of my students. So I learn it. I teach it. I teach it to where they know how to do it. They know how to counter it. They know how to get out of those positions. But I've seen training partners get hurt just out of a simple lockdown.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a simple lockdown. You and I were talking about this. I had a training partner that it was a simple lockdown that he didn't understand what was happening, and he tried to force his way out of it. And technically, he ripped his own knee apart.
Yeah, that does happen.
Right. Yeah, that does happen. But it's important. It's important to get guys to start studying. Like there's no, I don't want to get vulgar, but there's no soft jiu-jitsu or hardcore jiu-jitsu. It's jiu-jitsu. And if you're if you're just trying to put a flag on yourself saying, oh, we're just doing this hard nose pressure passing and everything else, and you're purposely ignoring other brands of, not other brands, but other styles of jiu-jitsu, you're doing a huge disservice, especially if you're an instructor. Yeah. So what are you studying? What do you like to do in your jiu-jitsu?
In my jiu-jitsu, I try to stay fundamentally sound at 10th planet, like at the quarter clinch, like quarter guard to mini stomping to lockdown, play a lot of electric chairs. But yes, in my last last warrior standing match, we saw that. But mainly, I've been doing a lot of mount work. Everybody says like the mount sucks and no gi. You can't collar choke, right. You can't bow and arrow, you can't do any of those chokes. So I've been trying to get it work my rubber guard for mount, like for mounted go-go platas or mounted going to mounted triangle series. Eddie has a whole series of how to do a mounted triangle. It's called the Gangstaline. Mm-hmm. You just set it up to where you can slowly get in that slow mounted triangle, and it's an optimal system that I've been using for months.
Pin in the arm, right? Pin in the arm and swimming your leg over kind of situation.
That's all on the overhook.
Right.
If the guy has to reach around you, try to bear hug you, okay, you gave me your arm. So it's like a rubber guard. I trap it with my hip and then start pinning that far wrist down and start working for that mounted triangle. All of it's based off a system of clinches.
Right, that's very smart. But if it's not something you're active trying to study, I find in no-gi, I don't really go to mount because of that.
Yeah.
Because of it's so, my mind is so ingrained into the gi jiu-jitsu that I primarily stay in side control and start attacking arms and stuff.
Oh yeah, Kimuras.
Kimuras and other chokes. There's a lot of no-gi chokes that you can do. But I can definitely understand where people feel that there's not enough attacks. But then again, you have to go back and study from the guy that's purposely putting himself in that position like Eddie Bravo and developing systems out of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it made a light bulb go off when I was like, oh yeah, I need to start attacking, triangles from the mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, man. It's funny. Like, you're only as limited as your imagination, but you're only as limited as you're willing to go outside of your zone of comfort. So, but you have a very interesting background. You wrestled a lot.
Yes, I've wrestled since I was 14. I wrestled at Skyline High School, Globe High School, and I had the opportunity to wrestle at Glendale College in Glendale, Arizona, and that was fun.
What was your competitive experience under that?
We were kind of like, we were a junior college, so we were kind of club, but we were able to compete against all the Division I schools, all the Division II schools. So I got to really do that Division I grind, having to go against like Dixie State, Utah Valley University, a bunch of these high level schools. So it was nice to have that under my belt before transitioning to jiu-jitsu.
A lot of people, what's your thought process as far as the grind that goes into wrestling, as to all of a sudden it comes to a screeching halt? And in jiu-jitsu, it's almost like the opposite way, where in wrestling is, if it's not working, just try harder,
Yeah.
And in jiu-jitsu, it's like, well, if it's not working, slow down and understand what you're doing.
It's a good blend to have, like that wrestling cone jiu-jitsu
Right,
thing, with wrestling, we're always taught, like Marines, like, oh, push forward, drive, like all this heavy conditioning practices, all making weight. You're toughing into a machine. And with jiu-jitsu, I found to be more flowy, more methodically, more like a game, instead of just having to be the most like strongest, best athlete, because everybody's lifting for wrestling, doing power cleans, trying to be more explosive, trying to get to point A to point B faster. In jiu-jitsu, there's points 3, 4, 5, 6. There's not just, once you get taken out of the ground, okay, now we're in my guard. I get to work for sweeps. I get to work for submissions. I get to do everything. It's not as, jiu-jitsu is, wrestling is more limiting than jiu-jitsu. That's why I was driven towards jiu-jitsu, because like, oh, a guy can take me down. Okay, I can sweep him.
And then what's right.
Yeah,
it's not over.
It's not over yet.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't mean to like offend, the wrestlers. Like I said, I come from a wrestling background, but
me as well.
I've always felt that wrestling is a sport.
Yes.
And jiu-jitsu is a fighting art. Because you talk about, how do you explain that to somebody? And I think it's this simple. What is the ultimate goal of wrestling?
Just to put somebody on their back, take them down. Yeah.
And pin, right? Ultimately in jiu-jitsu, you're working for the submission.
That's true.
You're working for the submission. So when you understand that jiu-jitsu is a fighting art, in the sense that you're trying to finish the fight by causing severe injury in a real life scenario, that's the difference, and I think that's what attracted me towards jiu-jitsu too, where, and wrestling was like, all right, I'm good at takedowns, but then that's it. Eventually, wrestling continues to grow, but it's just in jiu-jitsu, I want to say that after almost 20 years of practice, I haven't not had a moment where it was like, oh, just that, show me that again, is that moment of discovery, a new system, a new move, when wrestling was kind of like, oh, you're grabbing the hand different. Okay.
Oh yeah, like we're grabbing this way instead of this way.
Right, yeah. That was like, yeah. So like, I think that comes from the Russians, like how they grab the hand like this and start pushing it down. But in jiu-jitsu, it's far more refreshing. You're constantly just able to
constantly learning,
but not just learning like little details, but almost like just huge blocks of things where it's like, oh man, my jiu-jitsu is going to do a 180 from here. It's just going to be a completely different because of this one thing that I'm learning.
Oh yeah.
So that's phenomenal, man. So talk to us about your preparation for your last Warrior Standing fight.
My preparation, to be honest, man, I was working like 50-hour weeks doing tile. Oh, so I was doing demos. I was doing demos, running jackhammers. So that's where a lot of my strength conditioning comes from. Is doing construction. Of course, I hit my road runs like normal, like 5Ks. Sometimes maybe a 10K if I was feeling like it, but just normally 5Ks. And just training jiu-jitsu. I use the jiu-jitsu to condition. Whenever I'm at the gym, like you train at the gym. It's not just happy-go-lucky practice. Like, okay, I'm have a fight coming up. I need to win. Like I need to start training.
And what was your plan? Did you have a plan, or was it just kind of like
the plan probably was to pull guard, because I knew he wrestled at Sunnyside, and he was an accomplished wrestler, and he likes to like elevate and slam. My coach taught him. My coach does a heavy Greco-Roman and freestyle background, so okay, I'm gonna pull guard and see let the 10th Planet do its work at the lockdown.
Right. That's so smart, man.
Yeah,
Anthony Burchak.
Anthony Burchak, yes.
Yeah, dude, that's so
Planet
smart,
Tucson.
Man. So you guys decided to go in there and pull guard.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
what the game plan was.
talk to us through your match. I mean, how did it feel?
He was aggressive. I didn't like his clinch strength didn't match mine, but I can tell his speed was. I can tell he was a lot faster in his transitions. If in the film when he jumped up for the Kimura, he actually had my arm. I was like, whoa, like that's actually pretty dangerous. I need to give up my back. And as soon as I gave up my back, his hand was already around my throat. Like, oh, this guy's a lot faster than me. I need to lock him down and slow up the speed and play my game. And as soon as I was able to get that lockdown and get underneath his hips, I knew I had it. I was like, I got this. I'm in my world now.
And then talk to us through that submission. So you ended up getting the lockdown, but you start going over the electric chair.
Yes. Well, we have a system of sweeps, like the old school sweep. Whenever you're in the lockdown, you just pull the foot, sweep over, and does top side control. So that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get his momentum to push into me. So whenever he pushed into me, I was able to transfer that energy and push him over into the electric chair.
Right. Which electric chair is the sign you were explaining? It's the sign to attack the hip. It's more for hip.
Yes.
Unless the guy is stubborn and tries to turn from it.
Yes, unfortunately, he fought the lockdown and the electric chair sweep too hard, and he injured his own knee within the lockdown. The electric chair is supposed to be it's supposed to tear the hip capsule, not anything to do with the knee. It's like ripping a wishbone on Thanksgiving.
Right. Yeah.
But he tried to fight the sweep too hard, which is not his fault. He's not in a lockdown, like a 10th Planet lockdown every single day at training. So he's just like, okay, I can just limp leg out of this, and like you can against a good guy that's been doing it for a long time.
And we're talking about that, the difference between somebody that's what they practice is somebody that sees it like once a month, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna learn this lockdown and probably like never see it again for like another couple of weeks, kind of deal. It's a difference between like getting hit by somebody in sparring and actually getting hit by a boxer.
Yeah.
I've been hit by boxers, and that's when I understood what for somebody that spends so much time perfecting something, how good you get at that. You don't understand that. It's not just a punch. People don't understand that. So, but I've been in lockdowns. I had the pleasure of rolling with Anthony and Andre Drake. He looks like Drake.
Oh, he looks like Drake. Willie?
Willie. Yeah, Willie.
Yeah, he looks like.
Yeah. So no offense to Willie, and I hope I love the guy, but how I always remember him as Drake is we were trying to set up a match, and Anthony submitted a picture of Willie. Mm-hmm. And like the joke started with like, man, that's Fat Drake.
Yeah, he's known as the fluffy Drake.
We're like, man, that's Fat Drake. But no, so I had the pleasure of rolling with both of those guys, and I rolled with them in the gi and the no gi. And
they actually threw on the gi for you too?
Yeah, they came over here. We did gi, we did no gi. They put on the gi for me, and we rolled with the gi, and then.
See, that's what I love about 10th Planet. Like I'll throw on the gi too. Like I get beat with those cross chokes and like bunch of like my sleeves tied to my lapel and I can't move, or my guards gets past much easier. But good jiu-jitsu is good jiu-jitsu.
Good jiu-jitsu is good jiu-jitsu. I mean, you should be able to do it all. But also, I think it's important to train in a good environment where there's no. It's the purpose. The purpose is to learn. Don't show up to a training class to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And of course, I did my best against those guys. But to me, was like I said, when I got caught, when they put me in the lockdown, I was like, oh, that's what that's supposed to feel like, So it was phenomenal, man. It was a great training experience, and then obviously like Willie couldn't help himself. Next thing you know, is like we're talking about flat Earth and and those sorts of stuff, and we're like, and Anthony is like, Willie, we want to get invited again. He's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. He's like, cut it back. But no, phenomenal guys, man. They're really smart. And like I said, their willingness to go in the gi and without the gi and just throw themselves out there and just learn, learn, like not just say, well, I'm a no-gi guy and of course I'm going to get beat with the gi, It'd be like me saying, well, I'm not going to take the gi off, I roll no-gi once a week, how good can I possibly be?
Yeah, true.
Well, it's about learning, man. It's about, like I said, it's about creating an atmosphere where people come to learn, that's it. And I think that's what's very important. If you're going to have an open mat at your gym, which I know that Anthony has, I haven't been able to hit the open mats, but I went and watched because I think I was dropping off some tickets. Mm-hmm. And it was that, man. It was like, just kind of like our open mats. There's at least 5 different schools in there, and they're rolling hard, and then they're stopping, and they're like, what was that? show me that.
Oh yeah,
You know?
especially after that match at your Last Warrior Standing, nobody wanted to be my lockdown. And they're like, nope, they like threw themselves over. Like, I'm not letting that happen. Like, dude, it doesn't happen all the time, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they all wanted me to show them the sweeps and stuff. We have mats at our school from Friday to 7:30 to 9 p.m. and Sunday from sub-only Sundays. There's no timers from 1 to 3. So we usually have to set about 5 or 6 different academies, about 20, 25 people deep every time.
That's how it should be, man. That's how it should be. What's next for you?
Your guys' title match, man.
Yeah, let's do it, baby.
Last Warrior Standing 4.
Excited. So we're going to be in February. I think that's where we're going to have our next one. So we're definitely going to have a couple of titles on the line. Yeah. So we'd love to have you there, man. Anything else? What's next for 10 Planet? What's next for?
Anthony Burchek is planning to open up that 10 Planet Sahuarita. So he's trying to get back to his roots in his hometown. He's trying to have an outlet, an avenue for kids, like how he was. He grew up in Sahuarita, like back then it was like the size of globe where I'm from. So being able to make it from the UFC out of there is phenomenal. So he wants to give that kid, like how you're saying, like the Last Warrior Standing, give athletes an avenue to open up bigger doors, and so he wants to do that with 10 Planet Sahuarita too.
Yeah, it's just kind of like that story that we were talking about. Is what happened to me is when I was competing in kickboxing. I had a gentleman that came from Japan, and I asked him, "Do I have talent?" The guy says, "Yeah, you do." And I said, "What's next?" And he said, "Move." And his quote that stuck with me was, "Nobody's looking for world champions in Tucson." And that's what we want to change. So it's awesome that Anthony's doing that through his academies, and we're trying to do that through also our academies, but also through the tournaments, through our super fights, to where we put the athlete in front of the camera and say, okay, this is Cody and these are his talents, and fall in love with him.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's cameras, like there's YouTube in this nowadays. So like if it doesn't matter, like at least in my belief, it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're doing some really cool submissions on film, people are gonna check that out. Like, oh, who is this guy? Like Craig Jones. Craig Jones is from Australia or something like that.
Right,
and he's really good at leg locks. It's like, who the heck's this dude? Like coming from all the way continents away. You know what I mean? But it's on film, so everybody sees it. So that, like with you guys have a platform for us to get our talents on film and to be able to produce them to the world.
Beautiful, man. I love it. Are you teaching classes if people want to come and learn from you?
I usually teach on Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 to 8:30. That's when I teach the advanced classes.
At night?
Yes, at night.
Okay, not in the morning.
Not in the morning. No, I work a day job, unfortunately.
All right. Well, let's get you famous enough, man, so you can quit.
Right, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Beautiful. Cody, thanks so much for doing this, man.
Thank you.